Many people believe powerful communication is simply about speaking more, speaking louder, speaking faster, or using more impressive words. But true influence often works differently. In many situations, the most effective communicators actually speak less than others in the room. Yet when they do speak, people naturally pay attention. So what creates this difference? It is not only vocabulary, it is not only volume, it is psychology. Think about the last time someone genuinely held your attention, not just briefly, but completely. The atmosphere felt different. Their presence felt steady. Their words felt measured. Their delivery felt intentional. You may not have analyzed it consciously, but your mind noticed. Because the human brain is always quietly observing the person who is speaking. Within moments, the mind naturally considers, does this person sound confident? Does this person seem clear? Does this person feel trustworthy? Is this person worth listening to? And here is something important to understand. Many capable and intelligent people are sometimes misunderstood early in conversations, not because they lack good ideas, not because they lack knowledge, but because communication is strongly influenced by perception. You see, communication is never only about words, it is emotional, it is behavioral, and most importantly, it is psychological. Skilled communicators understand something that many people overlook. Listeners do not respond first to your message. They respond first to your overall presence, your pace, your certainty, your emotional steadiness. Before your words are fully processed, the listener's brain has already begun forming an impression. And once that impression forms, it often shapes how the rest of your message is received. This is why speaking too quickly can sometimes reduce clarity, why excessive explaining can unintentionally weaken perceived confidence, and why calm, composed speakers often hold strong attention without raising their voice. Because the human brain naturally connects calmness with confidence, and confidence with leadership. When you begin to understand this, your entire approach to communication starts to evolve. You stop trying to sound overly impressive. You become more comfortable with natural pauses. You begin to realize that more words do not always create more impact. Instead, you focus on presence, on pacing, on emotional control. Because silence, when used intentionally, is not awkward, it is powerful. It builds anticipation, it signals confidence, and it gently brings attention back toward you. In the parts ahead, you will discover how effective speakers naturally command attention, why calm voices often create stronger impact, how subtle psychological signals build trust quickly, and how small communication shifts can significantly increase your influence. But before we continue, pause for a moment and ask yourself honestly, when you speak, do people simply hear your words, or do they truly feel your presence? Because powerful communication begins the moment people move beyond hearing you and start genuinely listening. One of the biggest misconceptions about powerful communication is the belief that talking more creates more influence. In reality, the opposite is often true, because the human brain does not reward constant talking. It rewards clarity, it rewards calmness, and most importantly, it rewards control. When someone speaks too quickly, the listener's brain begins to feel pressure, not always consciously, but internally. The message starts to feel rushed. Processing becomes harder. Attention begins to drift. This is why slowing down your delivery is one of the simplest ways to immediately sound more confident. Powerful communicators understand the psychology of pacing. They do not rush to finish sentences. They allow space between thoughts. They give the listener's mind time to absorb what was just said. Because communication is not only about speaking clearly, it is about making thinking easier for the person listening. Another subtle principle is vocal steadiness. People naturally trust voices that sound calm and grounded, not flat, not emotionless, but controlled. When your tone remains steady, the listener's nervous system also begins to relax, and relaxed listeners pay deeper attention. There is also great power in intentional pauses. Most people fear silence in conversation. They rush to fill every gap. They worry that pausing will make them seem unsure. But skilled communicators use silence very differently. They place small pauses after important points. This does two things at once. First, it signals confidence. Second, it gives weight to the words that were just spoken. You may notice that when someone speaks continuously without pause, their message often feels lighter, less memorable, less impactful. But when someone speaks calmly and allows space between ideas, each sentence begins to land with more clarity. This is psychological emphasis. Another important factor is emotional regulation. When speakers become visibly tense, rushed, or overly reactive, listeners often feel subtle discomfort. But when a speaker remains composed, even while discussing serious topics, it creates a sense of stability. And stability builds trust faster than almost anything else. As you begin applying these principles, focus first on small adjustments. Slow your pace slightly. Allow brief pauses. Keep your tone steady and controlled. You do not need dramatic changes. In communication, small psychological improvements often create the biggest difference. In the next part, we will go deeper into how powerful communicators build instant credibility, why body language quietly shapes every conversation, and how to create a presence that people naturally respect. Take a slow breath, and when you are ready, we will continue. By now, you may have started to notice something important. Powerful communication is rarely loud, it is rarely rushed, and it is almost never accidental. It is built through small, intentional signals that the human brain quietly reads in every interaction. One of the strongest of these signals is credibility. Before people fully accept your message, their mind naturally asks a silent question. Can I trust this person? And the interesting part is this. Trust is not built only through facts or knowledge. It is built through behavioral consistency, through emotional control, through the way someone carries themselves while they speak. When a speaker appears calm, measured, and emotionally steady, the listener's brain begins to relax, and a relaxed brain is far more open to receiving information. But when a speaker appears tense, overly hurried, or uncertain in their delivery, the listener's mind becomes cautious, attention weakens, engagement drops, not because the message is poor, but because the delivery creates subtle psychological resistance. This is why body language plays such a powerful role in communication. Even in audio-focused environments, the body still influences the voice. Your posture affects breath, your breath affects tone, and your tone shapes how your message is perceived. Powerful communicators tend to maintain physical stillness, not stiffness, but controlled movement. They avoid unnecessary motion. They reduce restless energy, because excessive movement often signals internal tension to the observing brain. Calm body language, on the other hand, quietly signals confidence. There is also an important principle called vocal authority. Vocal authority does not mean speaking deeply or forcefully. It means speaking with grounded certainty. Your sentences finish cleanly. Your tone does not fade away at the end. Your delivery remains stable from beginning to finish. These small details have a surprisingly strong impact on how seriously people take your words. Another subtle behavior of highly effective communicators is intentional eye focus. When people feel that your attention is fully present, their engagement naturally increases. Even in recorded audio, this principle still applies indirectly. Because focused speakers sound different, their words feel more directed, more deliberate, more connected. As you continue developing your communication strength, remember this simple idea. Influence rarely comes from saying more. It comes from saying things with greater clarity and greater control. Start observing strong communicators more carefully. Notice their pace. Notice their pauses. Notice how rarely they rush to fill silence. There is almost always a quiet patience in the way they deliver their message. And patience in communication often signals confidence without a single word needing to announce it. In the next part, we will explore something even deeper: how emotional intelligence shapes powerful conversations, why listening skill often creates more influence than speaking, and how to make people feel genuinely understood when you communicate. Take a calm breath, and when you are ready, we will continue forward. There is a moment in every meaningful conversation that most people completely miss. It is the moment when the other person decides whether they feel understood or not. Because powerful communication is not built only on speaking clearly. It is built on making other people feel heard. Many people focus heavily on what they will say next. They prepare responses quickly. They wait for their turn to speak. But highly effective communicators do something very different. They listen with visible intention. And the human brain notices this immediately. When someone feels genuinely listened to, their natural resistance begins to lower. Their tone softens. Their openness increases. Their attention becomes more cooperative. This is the psychology of emotional safety. And emotional safety dramatically improves communication quality. There is an important distinction here. Passive hearing is not the same as active listening. Passive hearing is automatic, but active listening is intentional. It shows in small behaviors, slight pauses before responding, measured replies, calm acknowledgement of what was said. These signals tell the other person your words are being processed carefully, and that message alone builds significant trust. Another powerful habit of skilled communicators is emotional regulation during conversation. When discussions become tense, most people react quickly. Voices rise, pacing speeds up, tone becomes sharper. But calm communicators do something much more effective. They slow down slightly. They keep their tone even. They maintain control of their breathing. This creates contrast, and contrast creates authority. The nervous system of the listener often mirrors the speaker. So when your delivery remains steady, the emotional intensity of the conversation often begins to settle. This is quiet influence, not force, not pressure, but psychological leadership. There is also great power in reflective responses. instead of immediately presenting your own point. Powerful communicators often briefly reflect what the other person expressed. Simple phrases like, "I understand your concern. That makes sense. I see what you're pointing to." These responses do something subtle but extremely effective. They signal alignment before introducing direction. And the human brain is far more open to new ideas when it first feels acknowledged. As you practice these principles, remember that communication strength rarely comes from dominating conversations. It comes from guiding them calmly and deliberately. Speak clearly, pause intentionally, listen fully, and regulate your emotional pace even when conversations become complex. In the next part, we will explore how powerful communicators handle difficult conversations, how to maintain authority without sounding aggressive, and how to create lasting impact with fewer words. Take a slow breath, and when you are ready, we will continue. Of pressure. Moments when emotions begin of pressure. Moments when emotions begin to rise, because anyone can sound composed when everything feels easy. But calm authority is revealed when tension enters the room. Most people, when faced with resistance, react in predictable ways. Their voice tightens, their pace increases, their tone becomes more defensive. Not intentionally, but automatically. The nervous system moves into protection mode. And when this happens, communication quality often drops. Powerful communicators train themselves differently. Instead of speeding up, they slow down slightly. Instead of raising volume, they stabilize their tone. Instead of reacting immediately, they create a brief pause before responding. This pause is extremely important because it creates emotional separation, and emotional separation creates clarity. There is also a powerful principle called calm authority. Calm authority does not mean sounding cold. It does not mean sounding distant. It means maintaining steady emotional control while still communicating clearly. When listeners sense this stability, something subtle happens. Respect increases, attention sharpens, and the conversation often becomes more productive. Another key skill is structured response. When conversations become complex, many people begin to speak in long, unorganized explanations. This often reduces impact. Strong communicators do the opposite. They organize their thoughts into clear, simple points. They speak in clean segments. They avoid unnecessary repetition. Because the brain prefers structured information, and structured communication feels more credible. There is also value in measured disagreement. Powerful communicators do not avoid disagreement completely, but they express it carefully. Instead of sharp contradiction, they often use calm framing. For example, "I see your point. Here is another perspective. Let's consider this angle." This approach keeps the conversation open instead of triggering defensiveness, and open conversations lead to better outcomes. As you continue strengthening your communication presence, practice this simple pattern. When pressure rises, slow down. When emotions rise, steady your tone. When conversations become complex, simplify your structure. These small adjustments create a powerful shift in how others experience your voice. In the next part, we will explore the final layer: how to create lasting verbal impact, how powerful communicators make their words more memorable, and how to develop a communication style that people naturally respect and remember. Take a calm breath, and when you are ready, we will move to the final stage. As we reach the final stage of powerful communication, there is one principle that quietly separates average speakers from truly influential ones. It is not intelligence alone. It is not vocabulary alone. It is memorability. Because the goal of powerful communication is not simply to be heard in the moment. The real goal is to be remembered after the conversation ends. Most conversations fade quickly from memory, not because people were not listening, but because nothing in the delivery signaled importance. The human brain naturally filters information. It keeps what feels meaningful, and it releases what feels ordinary. Powerful communicators understand this, so they do something very intentional. They create moments that the brain wants to keep. One of the simplest ways to increase memorability is controlled emphasis. This does not require speaking louder. In fact, volume is often less effective. Instead, skilled communicators slightly slow down before important points. They allow a brief pause. Then they deliver the key idea with calm precision. This pattern signals the listener's brain. Pay attention. This part matters. Another powerful technique is clarity through simplicity. Many people believe complex language sounds more impressive, but the brain prefers what it can process quickly. Clear sentences, clean structure, direct ideas. When your message is easy to follow, it becomes easier to remember, and memorability multiplies influence. There is also a deeper layer to powerful communication: emotional consistency. When your tone, pace, and energy remain stable over time, people begin to form trust at a subconscious level. Because predictability creates psychological safety, and psychological safety creates openness. This is why calm communicators often build stronger long-term influence than highly intense speakers. As your communication skills grow, focus less on sounding impressive and more on sounding intentional. Let your words breathe. Let your pauses work for you. Let your tone remain grounded even when the conversation becomes important, because controlled delivery quietly signals confidence. You may also notice that the strongest communicators rarely try to dominate the room. They guide it, they pace it, they influence it without obvious force. This is refined communication power. Subtle, steady, deliberate. From this point forward, begin observing conversations with new awareness. Notice who rushes. Notice who over-explains. Notice who becomes tense when pressure rises. And then notice the few individuals who remain calm, measured, and fully in control of their delivery. That difference is rarely accidental. It is practice psychology in motion. As this session comes to a close, carry this understanding with you. Powerful communication is not built in one conversation. It is built through consistent refinement of small behaviors: your pacing, your pauses, your emotional control, your clarity. Improve these gradually. Practice them consistently. And over time, people will begin to notice something different about the way you speak. They may not always explain it, but they will feel it. And when people feel your presence as well as hear your words, your influence naturally grows. Take one calm breath. Slow, steady, intentional. And the next time you speak, do not rush to sound impressive. Speak to be clear. Speak to be calm. Speak to be remembered. Because the psychology of powerful communication begins the moment your words carry presence.